Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you drank enough coffee so you have still energy for the rest of the great, amazing conference. By the way, organizers, thank you very much for the amazing coffee. I'm very fond of coffee and it's so tasty. I want to start my presentation with telling a story. And I believe most of you have observed it but never paid attention to it. The recent days I was traveling to London and in one of the restaurants in the bathroom, I noticed how the mother was trying her little daughter to wash her hands. She was struggling to hold her daughter above the sink to wash her hands to use the soap. It's very uncomfortable because there is no sink which has a lower height for the kids. But what if it wouldn't be the kid? It could be the person which is not tall enough. And it made me to think that we have that kind of mental model that we build the things and making an assumption that the same people with same capabilities as we have, they're going to use our products. And this is like about accessibility, the sneakiest bias. And we don't need even to go out of the bathroom to find many failures where things doesn't work for everyone. Do you know this feature, wave to flush, in the toilet? Have you ever used it? Quite innovative, right? But have you thought about who cannot use it? Probably the blind person, or someone who hasn't a hand available to wave, or even someone who doesn't know English, right? And such an obvious and simple thing as college desk was designed with an assumption that all the students are right-handed. And look at this image. It might bring you good feelings, right? Because the car industry, they for years testing, they're doing the crash tests to make us safe when we use their cars. But did you know that women were 43% more likely to be injured? Why is that? Because for years, the car industry, they used the crash test dummy, which represented an average male. And we can ask ourselves, why is this happening? Where does it come from? Why do our society build the products based on the average person? And it can actually place in many areas. The Adolphe Quetelet, the Belgian astronomer and mathematician, in his project of the social physics, he made a concept of the average person. He measured every dimension of the human bodies and mapped it statistically to the bell curve. And he made an assertion that an average person is a perfect human being. And every deviation from that is a degree of error or abnormality. So what do we have now? The schools are designed for the average student. The hospitals are designed for the average patient. For many years, we believed the best way to run institutions is to focus on an average person. But when you really drill down into the numbers, we find out an amazing fact. No one is average, which means that the society which we built for everyone serves for no one. Given one more example. In 1950s, the American Air Force, they faced with a massive problem. Their pilots could not control the planes, and it led to the 17 crashes in the single day. These planes were crafted for an average pilot, and when they made a research and they investigated how actually their pilots are average, they found out a shocking answer. Out of the 1,000 active duty pilots, there were 0 average, no one. And it led to such simple solutions like adjustable seats, which dramatically decreased the number of accidents, improved performance. Therefore, it made a huge change of thinking. Planes doesn't have to be designed for everyone. They have to be adaptable to work for everyone. And we tend to make a universal design, which we assume might be accessed and used in the widest, most range of situations without the need of adaptation. And it's good, but it doesn't mean that universal design works for everyone. It is not inclusive. And universal design stands for that one size fits all, whereas inclusive design, one size fits one. And they should go right hand to hand together to build the products that work for everyone. Inclusive design appeared in the 80s by the people who were historically excluded participating in aspects of society. And this product became a mainstream. Like giving an example of the video captioning, it was created by the people who were deaf or hard of hearing, or the audiobooks, they were created by community of the blind people. And such things and even more, they used by everyone. Given one more example. Joseph Friedman, an independent inventor in USA, one day he noticed his little daughter struggling to drink a milkshake from the paper straight straw. And he designed a flexible straw so the children could easily access to their beverages. And this flexible straw is used by everyone. Everyone of you use this, right? And this kind of design was led by innovation to build an inclusive solution. And accessibility is an important part of it. If you want to build an inclusive solution which works for everyone on the world, we should start with accessibility, with its understanding of these solid basics. Give an example. Here's the doorknobs. Everyone aware about the doorknobs. But have you ever think about who cannot use the doorknobs? Probably someone who has injured their hand. Kids struggle to use the doorknobs. Even this guy can use it. So how we can improve on this design? Well, we can make a door lever. So now the pirate can use it. Even the robots from the Boston Dynamics can use it. But again, ask yourself further, who cannot use it? And probably the people on the wheelchair. Have you ever seen the people on the wheelchair going through the door? It's very tough for them. Or even the parents with the baby strollers. And thinking further how we can improve this design is where the automating sliding door appears. It's accessible and inclusive solution for everyone, and it leaves no one out. Even the animals can use it. So the accessibility benefits everyone. Even this wheelchair ramp, I actually made this picture recently in Prague, and it's not only usable by people who are in a wheelchair, it's also usable for the parents with the baby strollers and people with the suitcases, right? And when we are talking about the disabilities, we tend to assume, like saying someone who is visually impaired, we tend to assume that this is a person who is blind. But it can be also a situational impairment, let's say distracted driver, or temporary as someone who has a cataract. The same with hearing impairment can be someone who is deaf or has ear infection, or a bartender who works in a noisy place. All of you has experienced some type of disability at some point of your life. And give an example of these three people. All of them have some relation to the limited mobility, whether it's permanent or temporary or situational. And I really like this definition of disability. It's a mismatch of interaction of the body, of the feature's body with the outside environment. Humans have been here for the 1,000 years, machines for the 100 years, the computers for the 10 years, and the smartphones even less. Technology should adapt to the humans, right? And talking about the technology, web accessibility plays a big role in the concept of the accessibility. And I believe all of you, in one way or another, are involved in designing the products on the web. And the initial definition states that people with disability can perceive, understand, interact, and navigate within the web. But I changed it that actually everyone should be able to perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with the web. And here's a statistic. Currently, more than 70% of the website have some accessibility barriers. There are many people who just struggle to use your product. And talking about the people with disabilities, around the world, it's around 20%, which is 1 billion people. And it's like every 6th person, quite significant number, right? So how can we improve on that? I just wanted to share with you some core rules around web accessibility, which are important. And first of all, declare the language. Declaring the language using the lang attribute. It's not only useful for the search engine optimization and not only useful for translation tools, it's also very important for the screen reader. And a screen reader is a software which reads aloud the content on the screen for the blind person. What do you think what it is? It's such text search. What does it mean? Does it have any action? And this is what the screen reader will read for the blind person, search, with no sense. And this is what would be seen by the sighted person. You can guess it's a button and it can perform some action. And the reason why the screen reader doesn't read it properly, because of the bad design. Because the div was used for a button. And it makes no sense for a screen reader, so we just will read the text for a blind person. So always keep in mind to use the semantic HTML. If you want to build a button, use a button element. If you want to build a list, use UL and LI elements. So it will work for everyone. And keep in mind the tab, order, and keyboard navigation. When you're building the website, remember it's not only usable for the people with using the mouse. There are people who are just using keyboards. They should be able to perform same actions as you would perform with the mouse. Let's say you have kind of this of layout with this yellow controls list, and you need to click the grid button. By using mouse, you'll spend probably milliseconds just to click it. But what if you have only keyboard? You should be able to tap through controls from left to right, from up to down. And if you get to the list, the user should be able to use arrow up and down to navigate through the list, and then tap and get to the final control, to our green button. Again, what do you think this is? Some blue square? Well, you can guess from the previous slide, it could be the button. But what does it mean? What does it do? Maybe it detonates a bomb? This is what the screen reader will tell the blind person. It's a button. And the reason why? Because it looks like that. You can guess it has a trash icon on it, so it might do the delete action. And this time, it was used correctly using the semantic element button. But since there is no text within the text, there is no sense about it. Screen reader doesn't know what does it do. And to improve semantics, use area attributes. And it's an additional set of attributes which you can use to improve semantic where it is lacking. And here, I just added the area label to specify this is a delete button. And next time, the screen reader will read delete button for the blind user. Isn't it beautiful? I hope you're never going to make such design of the green text on the red background. But keep in mind the color-blinded people. Someone can be the red to green color-blinded, and this screen for them would be just gray. And also about the color contrast. Can you read it? I can. And it's not only about visually impaired people. I have experienced it many times when I was somewhere on the web and they didn't comply with the color contrast. It's very hard to read text, and there are many tools where you can check it and validate if you comply with the correct color contrast. I believe the second option is much better. And remember, this all I showed you is just small things, right? But remember, it's already a big difference for someone. And since the accessibility topic is very broad and it's very hard to fit it in 20 minutes talk, but start somewhere. And remember, all of you in this room, we're getting older, and all of us will need to use the website or the product, and we will need it to be accessible. And I'm actually very proud to work at Microsoft because it set the empathy as its core mission. And in Microsoft, we believe that when technology empowers each of us, it empowers all of us. Now it's your turn. So whenever you make a new design, keep accessibility on top of your mind and ask yourself, who cannot use it? Thank you. I also have the links, but maybe if the presentation would be shared, it's just a links where to start off and to find some useful information around accessibility.
This is actually wonderful, and this is really great. I think that this topic is really one of the things that we should pay a lot of attention to, and it's a beautiful example of how blind we are to those issues if we do not suffer those issues ourselves. Thank you for bringing it in this way. Let's take questions. So questions from the audience. Some of the hands. So okay, I would start with a question. In this sense, what do you think that works best with people with impairment? Do they have any kind of training, something that will help them to navigate? In which ways they what are the ways when you want to make things accessible to these people to understand everything? If you can maybe comment on some of those links, I think can be wonderful as a start point.
Okay. I think it's important to include the people with disability, actually diverse people, during your user research. And actually the people doesn't need to be taught how to navigate the web. They learn it, and actually they have a lot of shortcuts. And it's very important during user research, ask them correct questions. How do you get there? How do you use there? It's very important so you can build the model and to see what are the cases, how your product can be used. And regarding these links, it just some starting point if you are not aware about this accessibility topic. I really recommend the first one is Udacity course. It's free around the web accessibility, and there are also the different checklists, guidelines on the using correct attributes on the web, using semantic elements. And I really love on YouTube, if you like the short YouTube videos, it's one from the Rob Dodson on the Google Chrome developers. And the last one is a toolkit on design, on inclusive design from Microsoft.
Mm-hmm, that's great. So we switched to a question from the app. There is a question asking how Microsoft handles accessibility. So how is this maybe incorporated in the processes when the software is developed? How Microsoft handles that?
So there is a design department, and they also making a lot of user researches, and they involving the people, different people with disabilities, making the interviews with them, and asking follow-up questions to better know what works the best for everyone. And particularly in my product, which I'm working for the Microsoft Teams. I don't know if someone is aware. So kind of now we are trying to change the process. How do we incorporate accessibility? Because in the beginning, accessibility were the thing which was going like the last one. And their design is much more expensive than design. And accessibility should go like as the first thing during the design process, to know all the pitfalls and to know from the beginning how you should design the solution that would work for everyone.
Beautiful. Some question from the audience. So I have one comment, because when talking about this topic, I remember when I was interested in this topic when I was a student at my university, and the thing that some of my friends did is actually took an internship in an office that is helping disabled students. Because this office is pretty big. In Masaryk University here in Brno, the ratio of people with disabilities is the same as in the society in general. So there are many people who actually reach this point of studying university and have some impairments. There are many of them are at my university, and there is an office helping these students, really, even if they are deaf, blind, to study with others. And it's actually very refreshing to find out what are the key obstacles, because we sometimes have some assumptions, like what are the obstacles, but when we are really in touch with these students, we find out that maybe the situation is very different. It's very good to not avoid contact with people with disabilities and understand their needs. It's very useful.
Yeah, and the thing just to add, I was working in the previous companies, and they didn't pay attention to accessibility. And I think it's not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know. There are many people who are not aware about this problem, and I think it's very important to raise these issues.
Yeah. Do you have in Microsoft employees with disabilities?
Yes.
Is that a
you do
topic? Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Thanks a lot. Thanks so much.
Thank you.